Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
Hi guys! Cześć, tu Asia Domagała, Twój kompas w świecie nauki języka angielskiego, a ta audycja ma pomóc w rozwoju Twojego angielskiego oraz umiejętności słuchania ze zrozumieniem i przy okazji poznaniu ciekawych informacji, nie tylko językowych. Odcinki przeznaczone są dla osób od poziomu B1 w górę i są w 100% po angielsku. Let's go, shall we? So this is the second episode of my English Compass podcast, and this time it's going to be about Singapore. But I will not tell you the major attractions. I will not recommend you any places to visit because I've already been to Singapore. I will not tell you what is the best daily itinerary for the city and so on. But I will firstly start with some important facts about this place. And then I will focus on something different, which makes Singapore quite unique. Well, some people would say weird, some people unique, some people would say special, but it's basically about the bans and laws that are prevailing in this state, in this city. But let's start with a few important facts about Singapore. So, Singapore is an independent country that is located south of the Malaysian Peninsula, with English widely spoken along Mandarin, Bahasa Melayu and Tamil. And now Mandarin, as you can imagine, is one of the languages spoken in China, and Tamil is one of the languages spoken in India. By the way, Tamil is one of the 10 oldest languages in the world. It's among such languages as Hebrew, Basque language, or Tamil indeed. So Tamil is also spoken in Singapore, but the good news is, guys, that English is prevalent in Singapore, and it's relatively, I would say, very easy to us Westerners, Western tourists to simply move around the city. And thanks to the fact that English is widely spoken in Singapore, it's very easy to blend in with the locals, making communication a real breeze or a piece of cake. So it's truly making it a pleasure. Now, Singapore is a city-state. It's relatively small, but thanks to its compact size, I think it's like 3 or 4 days that will allow you to navigate through the city and see the major attractions and take advantage of everything that you should. And I'm speaking based of my experience. I've been to Singapore once. I spent there exactly 24 hours, and I think it was just enough to see the biggest attractions. However, of course, having 1, 2, or 3 extra days would allow me to visit more places. Now, when it comes to Singaporean weather, one thing is sure: pack for tropical weather. Tropical weather in its glory, so you should take an umbrella, light clothing due to high humidity. And high humidity is really, really high. It's hard to imagine if someone has never been to Asia, but it can be a pain in the neck at times. I would say scarves and light jackets would be useful for sun protection and visiting some religious sites, some religious temples. You really need to cover up your arms or your legs or your head. Now, in Singapore's scorching weather, because it's tropical, it's scorching hot, you sometimes have to find your way to beat the heat, because if someone is not used to such scorching temperatures, it may be a burden. So an umbrella is one of the key solutions, or simply seeking refuge in air-conditioned malls. Seriously, spending a quarter of an hour, 15 minutes in an air-conditioned mall may save your ass, simply because you'll cool down your body temperature and then you can go outside again and enjoy the tropical weather. Now, another thing is that Singapore is basically free from any natural disasters. It's very unlikely for any natural disaster to happen in Singapore. It's not surrounded by mountains. It's not fragile to any catastrophe that could happen, like an earthquake or tornado or anything similar. It's just torrential rains that happen, and it basically rains almost every day, but no natural disaster. So it's a very safe place in that matter. And another point I wanted to mention is indeed the safety, because Singapore is indeed known for its safety. Safety, stability, low crime rate, which is really great and suitable for any kind of traveler, including solo travelers or female travelers. I felt very, very safe in Singapore, including nighttime. Another issue to remember is that tipping is not expected in Singapore, although sometimes the service charges may be included in the bill, so it's good to take a look at that, pay attention to this. Last but not least, tap water in Singapore is safe to drink. So it definitely reduces the need for bottled water when you're there, and there are also plenty refill stations available basically at most attractions if you walk around the city. So these are some practical information I wanted to pass on. Now let me move on to the juicy part, which is the bans and the laws, because a lot of things are forbidden, a lot of things are prohibited in Singapore. It's simply good to know about them. And some of them are really peculiar. They're really, maybe not weird, but peculiar. So I think I have 10 things that I have listed here. I wanted to share them with you. So Singapore generally attracts millions of tourists annually, among others due to its safety and cleanliness. It's very safe. It's extremely safe. It's also pretty clean. By the way, we say clean as an adjective, but the noun is pronounced cleanliness. So it's not E, but cleanliness. Clean and cleanliness. This is the way we say it. To ensure a smooth trip, I think it's really useful to be aware of some unique laws, unique in inverted commas. The first one would be no smoking in public. And it's a pretty regular one because many areas of different parts of the world do not accept that. So really do not do that. Avoid smoking in public places. And there are fines for doing that. Of course, they are not that high because it's something like up to 1,000 Singaporean dollars, but still, it's not allowed. So no smoking in public places. Number 2. E-cigarettes are prohibited, so you're not allowed to smoke e-cigarettes, and that is much harsher when it comes to fines because it's up to 20,000 Singaporean dollars, and even imprisonment for possession of such. So if you're a smoker or e-smoker, be aware of that because it's simply not allowed. Number 3, no eating or drinking on public transportation. There are signs, pictures, slogans about that all over public transportation. So it's really, really difficult not to see that. And they truly stick to that. So no sandwiches, no coffee, nothing. You cannot eat or drink anything on public transportation. And that is because, among others, to make public transportation a clean place. Because it indeed prevents any food remains or drops of water or drops of Coke, being spilled on the sofas or on the floor. Again, it's fined, not heavily, but still you may pay a fine if you do that. Number 4, no playing musical instruments in public, unless you are certified to do that. By the way, playing in musical instruments in public is called busking in English. So no busking in Singapore unless you have a special certificate. So you will not come across street players or street musicians performing on Singaporean streets because it's forbidden. Number 5, no connecting to unauthorized Wi-Fi networks. And that is indeed a law. And the fine that you may get for doing that is up to 20,000 Singaporean dollars or imprisonment or imprisonment. So it's serious. Basically, if you find a Wi-Fi network, you cannot connect to that if you don't have the permission from the owner. That's how it works. Number 6, no importing or no selling chewing gum. That's again because they want to stick to this cleanliness on the streets and in the public sphere. So you cannot chew a gum, you cannot sell a gum, you cannot import a chewing gum, because it may potentially cause dirty streets. That's it. The fine you may get for that is up to 200,000 Singaporean dollars. So that's quite a lot. Number 7, no drinking alcohol after 10:30 in the evening. So PM. And that's, again, there is a fine for that up to 2,000 Singaporean dollars, but you may not drink after that time. It is supposed to strengthen the safety part of the city so that the people didn't drink too much after 10 and they didn't, cause any street fights or any other activities that may be regarded as harmful. Number 8, no feeding pigeons on wildlife without approval. So if you see an animal, a pigeon or any other animal, you cannot feed it unless you've been approved to do so. There are places where you can feed animals, but in most cases you cannot. So it's also pretty crucial. Number 9, it's about flushing the toilet. You are obliged to flush the toilet after using it. And again, it's like the extreme desire to keep all places clean. You simply have to flush the toilet when you're done. After peeing or whatever you do there, flush the toilet. Otherwise, you may get a fine up to 1,000 Singaporean dollars. By the way, a Singaporean dollar is a little bit cheaper than American dollar. I think it was something like 3 PLN for 1 Singaporean dollar. So getting a 3,000 PLN fine for not flushing the toilet, well, I think it's worth to remember what to do and what not to do when you're in toilet. And the last one. The last one is, I think, the most controversial one. And I also were not able to find 100% checked and verified information. One thing is sure. In the past, you could not keep cats as pets in flats. You could keep them at home if you had one in a house, but not in a flat, but with the restriction that it was supposed to be about flats that were built by the state. So not private flats, but let's say public flats that the Singaporean state, Singaporean authorities decided to rent to the public. It was a little bit cheaper. And in such an apartment, such a flat, you were not allowed to keep a pet. The causes varied, but the reasons I found were, for example, that the common areas were dirty as a result. It was also apparently about noise pollution. Now, it is a little bit more lenient when it comes to keeping cats. I think you can now keep a cat but one in this state flat, and it has to be sterilized because they were also afraid that as a result of keeping cats that were not sterilized, there would be multiple cats very soon in the area. So that is something that was supposed to be avoided. Cats are now, I think, allowed to keep in a flat, in a state flat, but with certain restrictions. So I think this is the weirdest. If I were to call one of those bans and laws weird, really weird, it would be the one about the cats. Surprisingly, I could not find anything about dogs. Dogs apparently, I don't know, cleaner, or they don't make as much noise pollution as cats, but still, it's only about the cats. So if you move to Singapore and you want to own a cat, or you take your own cat with you, you have to pay attention to what kind of laws and regulations are important. Yes, so the cats regulation was number 10. And this is more or less it from me when it comes to Singapore. I'm sure it's a place worth visiting. I really liked the city. There are plenty of places to visit. Quite a number of good restaurants. It's also a mixture of different cultures, religions, ethnicities. And because it's so safe and because it's so clean, it's a really pleasant place to live. But remember about the tropical climate, it rains every day. So it's simply good to be prepared for that. This is it from me for today. Please let me know in the comments whether you liked this podcast and whether you have visited perhaps Singapore before already, and maybe you would like to share your thoughts about this state or this city. Thank you for listening, guys, and have a lovely day. Bye. Cheers.
Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and all carry-on baggage stowed until the aircraft is parked.